Hi, I'm Mahmoud,
Hello, I'm Phil.
and today we are doing the second part of this or that. We are going to be asking each other questions mostly relating to music and maybe some other stuff, and we are going to discuss the why and how. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Then let's go.
In that case, I'll start with
Oh, you don't even have to look at your cell phone?
yes,
scared.
because these questions are going to be very short and to the point,
Okay.
which is Rihanna or Beyoncé, and why?
Oh, fuck. That is a tough one. I mean, how do I even answer that? Like, okay, firstly, my knowledge of either of those two artists isn't that huge. Like, I want to start off with that. However, I do believe answering Rihanna is probably well. How do I put this? Look, if I answer Rihanna, people will be like, well, if not for Beyonce, Rihanna couldn't be where she is right now.
Case being like Beyoncé walked so Rihanna could run.
Something like that.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I do personally like Rihanna's music mostly better. But I mean, how do you break a question like this down? Like by skill? Obvious answer would be Beyonce. I mean, she's
Indeed.
like who even is gonna rival Beyonce when it comes to singing? I don't like. She's got a big dick of a voice, and she's swinging that around like there's no like she.
Okay.
She's fucking amazing. But her music doesn't like. I don't think I'm the demographic of her music. Probably same story for Rihanna. But I do think Rihanna's music is oftentimes more fun for me. For me personally, the answer probably will be at the end Rihanna, but that's just down to personal taste, not because I necessarily think she's the better musician or recording artist or whatever. But Beyonce is iconic
No.
in many different ways. And she's married to one of the most iconic musicians in rap and hip hop in general.
No.
Both of these are incredibly influential on what is the modern hip hop scene today. So I don't know. Is like maybe the more important question for me would be who's more influential of the two.
Yeah.
And if I go by that, then probably Beyonce.
Yeah. I am inclined to agree.
So if it was down to personal taste, probably Rihanna. Even though I probably know more songs and could sing along to more songs by Beyonce.
Really?
I think so.
Okay. I think that Rihanna has, not being able to name one here, but I think she would have featured in some songs where we are forgetting her, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I agree with that, but some of Beyonce's biggest performances are also features, like where she features other artists. Maybe like I'm thinking of like Crazy in Love or something like that.
Oh, I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, and like let's not forget about Destiny's Child. So many
Yeah.
songs that
Yeah.
are huge by Beyonce were when she was still in Destiny's Child.
And she was carrying the song, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, I mean,
Yep,
those
yep,
are
yep.
those are. Like, if we're gonna be mean, we're gonna say that's like Beyonce and Friends. I don't think of it as that because Destiny's Child has a very definitive own sound when compared to Beyonce. But I still believe, like, when I think of Rihanna, I still think of Umbrella. How old is that song?
Oh,
Rihanna is just so different from her by now,
yep.
and the comparisons used to be more valid in a way, but at this
Okay.
point they're so silly, the comparisons. I mean,
Yeah.
Rihanna at this point mostly does like business endeavors. I don't. Does she still?
True. I think wasn't she the richest musician just recently?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Some lists or woman.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I mean, she is like with her makeup and stuff. I mean, she's huge, and she does amazing stuff for people of color when it comes to makeup. I mean, they had no choice, basically. Like they could like pick from two colors or something like that, and she basically, at that point, brought a palette to that whole side of makeup that wasn't there before her. Because makeup was basically just marketed towards white women, and that was it.
Yeah.
And the
Same
occasional
hair.
and the occasional metal dude that wanted to paint his nails black or something. I mean, let's face it, it wasn't that inclusive. I want to give props on that basis alone to Rihanna.
Yeah.
I mean, she's from every story that I know about Rihanna, she seems to be the dopest person.
Yeah, exactly. That's
and the stories that I know of Beyoncé,
yeah.
I don't know if we'd be friends. Like,
True. And relating to that, from the basis on which I would have looked at it as well, it's like from a persona perspective, like what are they embodying?
Yeah.
And might sound weird of a comparison as well, but Beyoncé was always more motherly and less cool, so to speak, or maybe like maybe just not as cool. Maybe that's enough. And Rihanna had I mean, she's married to Jay-Z, so what do I know, obviously. But playing that card, Rihanna's I think not married, but is she engaged to A$AP Rocky? I don't know. And so she was always a bit younger from my perception. She had a certain swagger that Beyonce just didn't, from my point of view. And marketing-wise, I mean, both did some genius things. I mean, but even there, Beyonce did her Lemon release, I think it was.
Where she did the music video for every song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was very theatralic from what I perceived it to be, so to speak. And Rihanna dropped an album that was just free in between, and that didn't chart as well. And she was like, "Here, you got it."
Yeah.
That's dope, by the way. I still like that album. It's very lo-fi.
What I heard from Lemon from Beyonce was also very daring and very like, I do think she tries different stuff from time to time, but all in all, it's just oftentimes, and this is gonna be blasphemic, and I hope if you're a Beyonce, you just went full black metal. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. What I'm trying to say is, I do think Beyonce sometimes maybe relies a bit too much on her big dick voice. And instead of having really cool melodies that are simple and easy to just digest and be happy as a listener of pop music, she just goes off on these very skillful tangents that are not necessarily needed.
Yeah.
Like when I think of Beyonce, I often think of Halo, and that song is so overplayed. I hate it.
I especially dislike If I Was a Boy. So even if it came down to the few songs I know from both of them, plus the album from Rihanna, I would gravitate towards Rihanna as well.
Yeah, I think the choice at the end of the day, for me personally, is Rihanna. For like 2 or 3 reasons. Like, one, the music just appeals more to me than Beyonce's music. Her endeavors outside of music are really cool.
Yeah.
And she seems on a personal level way more approachable, and I think I could be friends with her. I mean, call me. but like, in all seriousness, I think she seems like a really nice person. I don't know much about her, and probably not enough about either of them to make that a really fair assessment. But for me personally, I think Rihanna.
Yeah.
That was a cool question. I didn't see that one coming. That's I'm gonna give you a question that I didn't write down. That just popped into my head.
Okay.
And if you had to choose between modern hip hop and modern metal.
Oh,
that one just fucked you up.
that actually is probably going to give me the most headache of all of those questions.
Figured.
I'll try to look at it from a very basic perspective. At the end of the day, modern hip-hop is, when listened to in spades and very much, potentially more repetitive than it would be the case as with modern metal.
Are you saying modern hip hop is objectively, like if we can even say that objectively, more repetitive than modern metal? Like in the genre, like in a bubble?
Let's be honest, yeah, but that comes, I think that comes with many variables here. Considering that modern hip hop is as big as it is, and I'll just outline modern hip hop. For me, what I'm speaking of is the fellowship of like Future or not necessarily Denzel Curry because he's original, but like Lil Uzi Vert, all the auto crooners. That's what I.
Is that like basically everything past like post Drake? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, kind of. Okay. Like I wouldn't necessarily the early A$AP Rocky stuff. I wouldn't put in there, although it's dope. But I would say, yeah, everything that relies on autotune, maybe a little bit of The Weeknd even. Production-wise, I think everything that is in the corners of murder beats, of the one producer that not Ty Keith, because he's also new and one of those new school guys. I think Ty Keith was Ty Keith for this London rapper, which I lack the name of. Anywho, before I am going really off tangent here, coming back to the question, I think considering the scale that modern hip hop is on, Spotify is flooded with artists that intentionally go for samey beats, for same hi-hat patterns, for 808s, because that's basically the 808 is the distorted guitar of hip-hop. It has to be there. It's in trap, it is very much a staple to some degree. Yeah. And the playlists are filled because of that with artists that intentionally sound the same. I mean, even if you look in the German corner, there's maybe a more regional scene with I think German gangster rap that relies heavily on autotune and that has Turkish elements in it because
of their heritage.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And because there's a demographic there. Yet still, I think those beats, because of those patterns and everything, and because in hip-hop beats there's seldom a drum fill, for example. Yeah. I think in general there would be great potential to swap things out. I mean, you could use every instrument for a hip-hop beat basically if you wanted. Like when in fact oftentimes it's a bell pattern of 4 over an 808 over hi-hat patterns that might be cool, but that definitely sound repetitive after some time. Coming back to modern metal, we could pop the Finn McKenty here and say like everything's an Architect ripoff and everything sounds like Linkin Park nowadays. Maybe, yet still the instruments being the same, like a distorted guitar, a bass, some samples of sorts. I would say that is in modern metal.
So samples have made their way and like they've become a main staple basically at this point.
Even with those, there's still drum fills you could vary. There's still some leads or the bass underneath that you could vary. There's more things you can do with your vocals. Basically, there is. Even if it's just clean or shouting or screaming, but not even that, like the range between high screams and low screams is greater, etc. So I think at the end of the day, modern metal would still have more variation. Not that I would want to miss any of those genres, but at the end of the day, and I'm surprised to hear that from myself, but I'd probably
I didn't expect that answer.
I'd probably gravitate towards metal if I had to decide.
Okay, I have 2 follow-up questions. Funny enough, that I think could be interesting. One is you touched up on Spotify and playlists and stuff like that, and there's this very strong trend for modern music and largely modern hip hop, because it's so big and so prevalent in mainstream music, to make the songs very, very, very short. So many songs are just like between 1.5 and 2 minutes. And the reason for that is obviously a monetary one. It's because you stream the song more often, it generates more money.
More revenue,
More revenue for the musician, and of course Spotify itself. Now, I personally think there's very few scenarios where you can convey everything you want to say within 1.5 minutes. Do people in the scene think the songs are getting too short, and what's the point of releasing that? Or is it something that people actually want?
I don't follow the discourse often, but I think it's less of an issue concerning the songs. I think what is more talked about, and my source of inspiration being Anthony Fantano here, shout out, is the length of EPs and albums. Like, for example, Kanye's one album, I think the Bipolar, I hate being bipolar, it's awesome, or something. I think it was just above 20 minutes. And he called an album, not an EP. But like, he decided to make it an album, or call it an album. I think that is more an issue, that there's a divide. There's the aforementioned Migos, who like put songs out where, again, quoting Fantano here, where they basically throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And you have 30 songs that just like...
there's no shit filter. Like, everything just gets released.
Exactly.
That
also being the case, I tried to get into it too, but the new Drake album, the songs are pretty standard. It's like just lukewarm, but he's getting so many streams out of it that he will generate.
Didn't he just release an album? It's like the top 10 is like 9 songs of his.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, last thing I saw was like, Certified Lover Boy. And like he released like, I don't know how, like, I don't think he released that many singles, but when the album hit, 9 of the songs were in the top 10. And of the top 15, it was like 13 or something like that.
Oh boy.
And that is insane.
I think that's interesting, by the way, that I think radio music, I think the radio, the EDM pop is very prevalent, but I think streaming wise, I mean, of course, the big artists and everything have great numbers too, but I think the representation of what is actually pulling in streams from the hip hop side of things is not always represented in radio. The example being Drake, which let's just assume it really is that way, that like top 10 and 9 songs are his. The radio is not full of Drake songs. It was like, I think One Dance was very poppy, or Passion Fruit or something. I think they made it, but I think Drake doesn't get much air, at least here. I will have to say this, maybe just here. I think in America probably he'll get more streams, but here he doesn't get airplay, from what I take from the radio.
Do you think the songs suffer from being too short, generally speaking? I mean, I get that some artists really want to push for that short amount of time, and I think there's artistic merit in that, and trying to write a song and saying everything you need to say within those 2 minutes. But to me, as a fan of modern metal music, it feels like, did you really convey everything you wanted within those 1.5, 2 minutes? Or is it just me being greedy and wanting more?
Connecting it to modern hip-hop, I think you overestimate the message that is often there. Not wanting to be unfair, but... You're saying there's not necessarily that much they want to say, they just want to have fun with the music? I think pretty much that. I mean, like, unpopular example for many people, but look at Lil Pump, Gucci Gang.
Fuck, yeah, you're right. I mean, that song still was a hit.
Yeah, and I mean it's very short, and
it's just Gucci Gang on repeat.
Yeah, and it was.
I mean, literally that phrase.
Well. Yeah, indeed. That too, and like for the funsies of it, I mean, "You Suffer" by Napalm Death is 1 second or 3.
It's literally like half a second. It's that's it.
True. But
I don't think anyone thinks of that as a song. That was a gimmick.
Yeah, true. But in terms of songs, I think really oftentimes in modern hip hop it's more about the vibe.
Fair.
And not necessarily.
Hip hop is very vibe heavy, like very vibe focused.
Nowadays it is. I think it
used to be not that way. I agree. I learned something. Yeah. And follow up about Finn McKenty. You brought up Finn McKenty. And he constantly, I don't want to say complains, but he does. No, seriously. But no. My point is, he says that a lot of the modern metal scene often just doesn't innovate enough, and it's just the same thing over and over and over, and they're ripping off this band or that band. And largely that might be true. I'm not going to argue against that because a lot of the points that he makes I agree with. What I'm trying to say is, though, does every band need to innovate, firstly? And isn't it sometimes just enough to have good songs that are living within the constraints of the genre, that still feel inspired, as opposed to writing music that might be innovating, but is objectively bad music? I don't expect every album to be fucking Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that because I think the point you were making about modern metal still using like largely based music on guitars, bass, drums, and a vocalist. And we've been doing that for 30 years, 40 years, and no one's complaining in the metal scene so far. Yes, the metal scene is not as big as it used to be, but
mind you that this being the case could also, or why it isn't complained about, that the average metalhead, as if that existed, but I think in discussions, you as well as me heard the argument, we're still playing real instruments and stuff, and that might be something.
Yeah, that's a painful one.
Yeah. I mean, everything is sampled and all. Yeah. But the argument, or what happens in the mind of this person, is, in my opinion, that
somehow this is more valid.
This is more valid, and it's clearly something that is distinct for him, and distinguishes this genre from other genres. And if you put out a distinctive something distinctive out of the mix, basically, and something that you base your profile on, or your the way you picture yourself, I think this would be a great change in the least. And I think that's why it's the staple it was and is still, because people are just identifying with these instruments being a part in that, as a given, and as something that they can identify themselves with, and with the music.
Yeah, it's a lot of people that listen to EDM and hip hop and stuff like that don't necessarily play an instrument. And that's probably why they don't care how the music is made. Whereas a lot of metalheads often play an instrument or something like that, and they feel the connection to the music through themselves playing that instrument. Whereas hip hop head is not gonna be like, I'm gonna replicate that beat. That's not the point of the music for them. The point of the music for them is to listen to music. But the argument is painful. When I hear that argument, I mean, where do you draw the line?
Especially today.
like, where do you draw the line? Like, did you make the guitar yourself? Or like, it's not a real amp. You shouldn't be using, like, I don't know, Fractal.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, I get where they're coming from. Basically, that they're largely responsible for the playing and the tone that gets out of it on a visceral level.
yes.
Like being palm muting a guitar and like not necessarily having like a piano, because a normal, a non-electric piano, from my understanding, is something that you can also push into, and that gives you a feedback on a haptic level.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you have a physical reaction.
Putting that against a down-tuned guitar and standing before an amp and having the palm muting and the push.
Yeah, and then you have the loud drummer. I mean, it's a different world.
I think that's mostly where they're coming from. And I can understand.
No, I can understand their point, but I like if they're taking an album by, I don't know, let's go back to like Metallica or Architects or whatever. It doesn't really matter who.
Metallica or Architects.
No, I'm bringing up these two bands because their albums sound ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Like if you take the Black Album, and if you take, I don't know, Holy Hell.
Oh yeah.
Holy Hell. Okay, if we take an album like Holy Hell, and we show it to a metalhead who happens to like modern metal, and we compare that to any EDM or modern hip hop and stuff like that, both are as overproduced as the other one.
Yeah.
Like,
of course.
Like, both took a lot of work, a lot of skill, and a lot of technical production wizardry to make them sound the way they do.
Oh yeah.
And the argument that it's, well, this is real instrumentation and this isn't, just falls so flat to me because I know what goes on with a production.
Yep. Yeah.
And once you know that, it's just like, it just does not matter.
Yep.
For all I know, all of the guitars on that album could have been programmed and we would not know.
Yep. Or sampled. I mean, basically, what goes on with the grid? If you like, you play the best takes, and then you think this palm mute sounds especially good, then you do sample it. Yeah. Like if you duplicate it, you can sample that. That is what is going on.
Yeah, and you can do that, and no one would hear that because it's a split second, and maybe you paste that every 4 bars. That particular hit. Who's gonna know?
Yeah, and on that 4th bar, oftentimes there's either a snare or a kick that further makes it puts the guitar in the back. Yeah. So it pushes, but you don't hear the detail and say,
I heard this part.
Yeah, and like
or something.
It just doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's just an answer. Like the answer should be, I enjoy this over that.
Yep.
And that's as valid an answer as it is. Like there's no answer that is more valid than that, in my opinion. Like if my answer to I listen to modern metal more because I enjoy it more, you don't have to justify anything beyond that.
No.
Like, well, this question went off way longer than I thought it would go, so I think we're gonna leave it at that. If you have any questions that you think we should answer in the next video, please leave them down below in the comments. Like Phil already said, like and subscribe. I hate saying that, but he's right.
Hit the bell as well.
Hit the bell as well and smash the like button. Anywho, this was fun.
Indeed it was.
We'll see you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Don't have a dry throat, brother.
Okay, me beer.
Shut up, head. If I wanted you to come, so I would have asked for it.
That was a good Kratos voice.
Thank you.